Obviously, the day I decided to film this video, the temperature suddenly drops. Yesterday it was all sunshine and blue skies, and now it's all grey and drizzly. Which I guess it fits better to the theme than sunshine and spring flowers, but still. Hi, my name is Andi, I'm a chaotic reader, and today I want to talk about yearning, which is one of my favorite motifs in books with a romance plotline. But before we dive into the recommendations, let's examine the concept a little bit more. Because lately I have seen a lot of these books with the best yearning type of recommendation videos on YouTube, on TikTok, on Instagram. And sometimes I was surprised to find that they named books which didn't have much yearning, in my opinion. So what is yearning? Yearning is defined as an intense longing for something, or in a more detailed definition, as a strong feeling of wishing for something, especially something that you cannot have or get easily. It's a little bit different from desire, it's a little bit different from longing or want, but they also overlap. And personally, I think that the real strength of it lies in the second part of the definition, especially something that you cannot have or get easily, because this lends weight to the feeling. Disclaimer that yearning is not always romantic. You can yearn after a place or a time or even an experience for that matter. But in this video, I'm solely looking at the romantic aspect of yearning for another person or love in general. I emphasize the more emotional side rather than the physical side that is more tied to desire. Actually, this gave rise to the current trend of looking for yearning in romance books. The fact that so many plots nowadays contain this so-called insta-love, a very quick development of feelings and physical intimacy that lacks this longing and the obstacles that the characters face with their feelings. Why yearning works so well is very simple. The higher the obstacles that stand in the way of the characters' feelings, the better the payoff once they overcome these challenges, regardless if the challenges are internal or external obstacles. When external forces prevent the couple from being together, yearning can often turn into a more tragic end. Just think Romeo and Juliet. Their love is intense, although rather quickly developed, but they cannot openly express it due to the feud between their families, leading to longing for a love that they cannot publicly show. You can find many examples of yearning in classics, Wuthering Heights also being one of them. Here you have Heathcliff and Catherine sharing a dark, possessive, destructive kind of love that's rooted in yearning as they cannot be together, and it transcends even her death. Pride and Prejudice is another example where Jane Austen presents romantic yearning as more of an internal conflict against pride and societal expectations, and it's a little bit different how both characters go through it. If you are looking for books with good yearning, it's worth looking back on these classics because they did it exceptionally well with a lot of complex emotions layered on top of it. Now that we have a better understanding of the concept and what makes it truly interesting, let me tell you about some fantasy romance books where it's done well, in my humble opinion. I've said it before and I will say it again. Hafsa Faizal is the master of writing romance plots that are complex with betrayal, vulnerability, and beautiful character growth for everyone involved. Specifically in her Scent of Aravia duology, I would say we get more yearning in the second book, We Free the Stars. Here love develops between Nasir, the Prince of Death, and Zafira, the Hunter, and a lot of it is tied to internal conflict. Nasir believes he is unworthy of love, shaped by years of emotional abuse and guilt, and Zafira is fiercely independent and burdened by her duty, and in her word, love feels like a weakness. Oh, I ate up this dynamic. So much longing, so much self-restraint, but it just made their emotional development all that much sweeter. Highly recommend. If you are looking for that special flavor of yearning with internal monologues full of longing, emotional tension in their shared scenes, what is said, what is left unsaid, and a slow and sweet build up that feels like a liberation for both of the characters. Next, I cannot make a video about yearning and not talk about divine rivals and ruthless vows. Starting with the fact that at the heart of the story is the magical correspondence between Iris and Roman, two rival journalists, and their letters display their longings so well as they express vulnerability in them. Here we have separation as a plot point that intensifies their yearning for each other, not only to be together, but also to be understood by each other, which is one of the most underrated aspects of their story, but a huge reason why I rated both of the books 5 stars, that they find understanding in each other and recognition, which is built up so beautifully. The story takes place against a backdrop of a war between gods, so there are a lot of emotionally devastating elements in it, so please check the trigger warnings first, but I highly recommend it for a yearning that is forged in words, deepened by loss, and ultimately fulfilled through resilience. This was rather poetic. You can tell how much I love these books. As I said, yearning is one of my favorite motifs, so no surprise that all of my books basically made this list, including the Once Upon a Broken Heart trilogy. Well, more like the first 2 books. The last book was a bit of a conclusion, so let's focus on the first 2, okay? Here, the author crafts a world where longing is not just romantic, it's magical, it's dangerous, and sometimes even heartbreaking. Evangeline, our main character, represents a kind of yearning that is centered around being chosen by love. She believes in fairy tales and soulmates at the beginning, and throughout the story it gradually shifts into longing for the right kind of love without manipulation. Jax, on the other hand, Jax. He is the embodiment of tragic yearning. He is cursed to love only one person, his true love, and to lose her if he kisses her. His longing is more reluctant. He exercises self-restraint but cannot escape the slow burn forming of an attachment to Evangeline. There are a lot of fairy tale tropes twisted in their story, so if that's not your cup of tea, I would stay away from this trilogy. But if you like your yearning in a fairy tale setting with unspoken feelings, interrupted moments, and emotions that burn bright under layers of denial, this is your time to pick up the trilogy. This next book very well may be a new entry to the books I rate 5 stars, which doesn't happen very often, but Rain and Ruin earned it so far, even though technically I haven't even finished yet. I think I'm at 60% currently. But there were already so many elements of yearning in this book that I had to include it in this list. In this story we have Naeem, the heir to her father's throne and a brilliant elemental mage on her own right, and Makram, the second prince of a neighboring country with secret powers that can bring destruction to all. Their yearning for each other is very much tied to political stakes, cultural divides, and the personal cost of power, which makes the whole plot highly intriguing. I'm honestly surprised that not more people talk about this book. I immediately liked the book because their attraction develops gradually. They share respect and mutual ideals, and yet they battle internally with who they must appear to be and who they really are. They share sweet moments of unexpected intimacy and their longing is expressed by the risk taken simply in caring for one another. Similar to divine rivals, their feelings are tied to their own desire to find someone who finally understands them, but also someone who can stand next to them and share their burdens. This creates a romantic progression where every step feels significant and every touch or moment feels electric, charged with tension and high stakes between the two of them. I cannot wait to finish their story, and I'm pretty sure you will hear me talk about it a lot more in upcoming videos because I need to spread how amazing this book is. If you haven't read One Dark Window or the sequel to Twisted Crowns yet, this is your sign, because I'm about to convince you that it's worth reading for the yearning alone. Think misty forests, gothic castles as the backdrop of the story. We have Elspeth with a monster trapped inside her mind, and Raven, the captain of the guards, as our main characters. They are drawn to each other, but they are both afraid of what this could mean for them. So we have a lot of internal conflicts over feelings, which is one of the key elements of yearning. The author spoils us with almost touch moments where physical proximity carries emotional weight, emotional vulnerability where Raven expresses that Elspeth brings him hope, warmth, and a chance for connection, all done in very beautiful poetic phrasing. Highly recommended for the gothic vibes alone and the yearning that is built upon what must not be said, what shouldn't be acted upon, and what might be lost if love is allowed to bloom. One Dark Window and Two Twisted Crowns. You should read it. Now my tea is completely cold, but I had a great time talking about my favorite books and yearning. Let me know what are your favorite fantasy romance books where yearning is done well. Besides Rain and Ruin, I feel like it's been ages since I found a true gem in the genre. See you in my next video. Until then, take care. Bye!